Hello, this is Nelson from Gita Sporting Goods. Today we're talking about some of the new Eddy Merckx frames for 2011. The EMX-7 has been the top of the line frame for the last 2 years. It's totally redesigned for 2011 with a new geometry. That geometry shared with the new flagship model, the EMX-7. The EMX-7 shares many features with the EMX-5, including the bottom bracket. This is a BB86 system. BB86 is a wider standard than the conventional 68 or 70 millimeter shell. It's an 86.5 millimeter shell, which is unthreaded. It allows the designer of the frame a lot more latitude in how they can design the bottom bracket. They can add a lot of rigidity there. They don't have the constraints of the narrower bottom bracket shell. One of the very innovative things that Eddy Merckx's engineer brought with him from the aerospace industry is the use of pitch-based carbon fiber. This is the first time that pitch carbon has been used in the bicycle industry. Previously, everything has been a pan-based carbon. Pitch-based carbon can be made extremely rigid, but it becomes a bit brittle when you do that. So it's something you can't build a complete frame out of, but it is very good for adding areas that where you need a little bit of extra stiffness at lightweight. The bottom bracket area, the head tube area, places like this where you want to have them as rigid as possible, you can add a little bit of pitch-based carbon. It can add a lot of rigidity with a lot less weight than you would any other way. Pitch-based carbon can also be made a lot stiffer than pan-based. The pitch-based carbon in this one is a 62-ton carbon, which is something that's just not used in the cycling industry. One of the things Merckx has been looking at doing with the new geometry is to increase the trail in the frame a little bit. A trail is defined as the distance that a vertical line through the hub, through the front hub, will trail a line coming through the head tube, basically your head angle. As you increase this trail, the bike will become more stable up to a certain point. Most carbon frames have actually reduced the trail a little bit because the front end has not been quite rigid enough to support the additional trail. And going to the 1.5-inch bearing and the massive fork blades in the head tube area, they have increased the rigidity in the front end enough they're able to incorporate a little bit increased trail in the frame. What this does is make the frame extremely stable at higher speeds, takes less rider input for corrections. With a lot of frames you'll find when you get on say a twisting mountain road, you'll be having to put a lot of rider input into it. The Merckx you'll find you have to do a lot less of that. It's just a very, very stable, very simple to ride bike. Seems to do a lot of the work for you. One of the other features you'll find on the EMX-7 is an integrated seat post. It's the first time that Merckx has done this. The advantages of this are that you don't end up having to use a seat post clamp. You're not clamping directly at a fairly high stress area right here where all of your tubes are coming together. The actual weight overall is lighter than a separate seat post because you don't have basically two different pieces here. You have a small stubby that goes into the top of the integrated seat post, which you have some adjustability. You've got about 2 centimeters of spacers here that you can adjust. Of course, it does have to be cut to the proper height to begin with. And you've got the adjustability with the spacers in here. The overall effect of this is they can add a lot more rigidity into this area, a lot of strength. It's an area that you sometimes see frames fail from over tightening, this sort of stuff. This eliminates the possibility of that. It also, as I said, will be a lighter system overall. Some of the other features on this frame are a tapered steerer tube. In the past, the EMX-5 had an 1.125 upper bearing, 1.25 lower bearing. The EMX-5 and 7 for 2011 both use an 1.5 lower bearing in the head tube. One of the features on the EMX-7, internal cable routing. This has the derailleur cables are both routed through the down tube. The rear cable is also routed through the right-hand chainstay. One of the other unique aspects on this particular frame, which is the quick step, is a tinted blue carbon, which on this one is used under the down tube and a small window on the top tube. This is just a very unique look that Eddy has brought into this frame. The EMX-7 is a very limited frame set. The quick step team, as this one is outfitted as, is overall riding the EMX-5. Tom Boone and some of the bigger names on the team will be riding the EMX-7, at least in some of the races. One of the new features for 2011 with Eddy Merckx is a limited lifetime warranty on their carbon frames. When you register your frame online, you will receive your Eddy Merckx Bicycle Passport. This works the same as your service record for your car. Basically, once a year, you need to have your bike inspected tuned up by your dealer. At that time, they will stamp the book, date it, and this will serve as your warranty. As long as you keep your original receipt, you've got that limited lifetime warranty. Lucky owner of an EMX-7, you will also receive this book on Eddy Merckx. This is a very large coffee table book that's given exclusively to members, to people who buy the EMX-7. It's a pictorial account of Eddy's career, along with a lot of anecdotes, stories about his different races.